You're listening to Lead AI.dev, your daily updates on AI development. Today's topic is GitHub Pages Tutorial, free website hosting for developers in 2024. Here's a quick overview. GitHub Pages offers free static website hosting directly from repositories, making it the go-to solution for developer portfolios, documentation, and project sites. Now, let's ask our analyst about these developments. What's new? GitHub Pages simplified deployment process.
GitHub Pages continues to evolve as the premier free static site hosting solution for developers, with recent improvements streamlining the deployment process. The platform now supports automatic builds from any repository branch, eliminating the need for complex CI/CD configurations. This update makes GitHub Pages more accessible to beginners while maintaining the powerful features that experienced developers rely on. The service processes over 2 million builds monthly, demonstrating its widespread adoption across the developer community. The technical foundation of GitHub Pages relies on Jekyll static site generation, though it now supports custom-built processes through GitHub Actions. Users can deploy sites directly from Markdown files, HTML, or popular static site generators like Hugo, Next.js, and Gatsby. The platform automatically handles SSL certificates, custom domains, and CDN distribution through GitHub's global infrastructure. Recent performance improvements have reduced build times by up to 40% for typical documentation sites. Previously, developers needed to understand Git workflows, branch management, and Jekyll configuration to effectively use GitHub Pages. The current iteration abstracts much of this complexity behind an intuitive interface while preserving advanced configuration options. This represents a significant shift from the tool's original focus on technical users to a broader audience, including designers, content creators, and project managers who need simple website deployment. Automatic HTTPS encryption for all GitHub Pages sites with custom domain support integration with 30+ static site generators through GitHub Actions workflows global CDN distribution with 99.9% uptime SLA across GitHub's infrastructure, built-in analytics integration with Google Analytics 4 and other tracking platforms, custom 404 error pages, and redirect management for professional site maintenance.
Thank you for that analysis. Let's move on. Who benefits from GitHub Pages free hosting?
Individual developers represent the primary audience for GitHub Pages, particularly those building portfolios, personal blogs, or project documentation. Front-end developers benefit from the seamless integration with their existing GitHub workflow, allowing them to showcase projects with live demos alongside source code. Open source maintainers use GitHub Pages for project documentation, API references, and community resources. Students and bootcamp graduates leverage the platform to demonstrate coding skills to potential employers without hosting costs. Development teams and small organizations find GitHub Pages valuable for internal documentation, team wikis, and project status pages. Marketing teams at tech companies use it for landing pages, product announcements, and campaign microsites that require quick deployment cycles. Design agencies appreciate the ability to rapidly prototype and share client work without complex hosting arrangements. Nonprofit organizations and educational institutions benefit from the free hosting for informational websites and resource libraries. Enterprises with complex compliance requirements or need for server-side processing should consider alternatives like Netlify Enterprise or AWS Amplify. Organizations requiring advanced analytics, A/B testing, or e-commerce functionality will need additional services. Teams that frequently update content through non-technical users might prefer CMS-based solutions with visual editing interfaces. Front-end developers showcasing React, Vue, or Angular applications with live demos, technical writers maintaining documentation sites with automated deployment from content updates, open source project maintainers creating community hubs with contributor guidelines and resources, students building coding portfolios to demonstrate skills for job applications.
Great insight. Really helpful context. How to get started? Step-by-step GitHub Pages setup.
Setting up GitHub Pages requires a GitHub account and basic understanding of repository management. Begin by creating a new repository or selecting an existing one that contains your website files. The repository can be public or private, though private repositories require a GitHub Pro subscription for Pages functionality. Ensure your main website files are organized with an index.html file in the root directory or a readme.md file for simple Markdown-based sites. Navigate to your repository settings tab and scroll to the Pages section in the left sidebar. Select your source branch, typically main or master, and choose the root directory unless your site files are in a docs folder. GitHub will automatically detect Jekyll configuration files and process them accordingly. For custom build processes, select GitHub Actions as your source and configure a workflow file in the .github/workflows directory. The initial deployment typically completes within 2 to 3 minutes. Verify your deployment by visiting the provided GitHub pages URL, usually formatted as username.github.io/repository name. Test all navigation links, images, and interactive elements to ensure proper functionality. Configure a custom domain by adding a sname file to your repository root with your domain name. Then update your DNS settings to point to GitHub servers. Enable HTTPS enforcement in the pages settings for security and SEO benefits. Repository structure. Place index.html in root directory or use readme.md for simple sites branch configuration. Select main branch and root directory in pages settings custom domains. Add sname file and configure DNSA records to 185, 199, 108, 111, 153 HTTPS setup. Enable Enforce HTTPS option after domain verification completes build monitoring. Check Actions tab for deployment status and error troubleshooting.
That's a very interesting point. Tell us about competitive context. How GitHub Pages compares to hosting alternatives.
GitHub Pages competes directly with Netlify, Vercel, and traditional web hosting providers in the static site hosting market. Netlify offers superior build performance and advanced features like form handling, serverless functions, and split testing, but charges for high traffic sites. Vercel excels at Next.js deployment and edge computing capabilities, though it targets more complex applications than typical GitHub Pages use cases. Traditional hosting providers like Bluehost or SiteGround offer server-side processing and database support, but require more technical maintenance and ongoing costs. GitHub Pages' primary advantage lies in its seamless integration with the development workflow that most programmers already use. Developers can update websites by pushing code changes, maintain version control for all content, and leverage existing repository permissions for collaboration. The platform's zero-cost model for public repositories removes financial barriers for personal projects, open source documentation, and educational resources. GitHub's global infrastructure ensures reliable performance without additional configuration or monitoring requirements. However, GitHub Pages lack server-side processing capabilities, advanced analytics, and sophisticated deployment controls that competitors provide. Sites requiring contact forms, user authentication, or dynamic content generation need additional services or alternative platforms. The platform's Jekyll-centric approach, while powerful, can limit flexibility for developers preferring other static site generators or custom build processes. Cost advantage. Free hosting for public repositories versus $10.50 plus monthly for comparable services workflow integration. Direct deployment from Git commits without separate CI/CD configuration performance limitations. No server-side processing or advanced caching controls compared to Netlify/Vercel ecosystem constraints. Limited plugin support compared to dedicated static site hosting platforms.
Good analysis. Let's continue. What's next? Future implications for developer hosting?
GitHub's roadmap for Pages includes enhanced GitHub Actions integration, improved build performance, and expanded static site generator support. Microsoft's investment in the platform suggests continued development of enterprise features, including advanced security controls and compliance certifications. The integration between GitHub Codespaces and Pages will likely streamline the development to deployment workflow, allowing developers to build and preview sites entirely within the browser-based development environment. The broader static site hosting market is evolving toward edge computing and serverless integration, areas where GitHub Pages may expand through partnerships or direct development. Competitor platforms are adding AI-powered optimization and automated performance tuning, features that could influence GitHub's future development priorities. The platform's role in the Jamstack ecosystem continues to grow as more developers adopt static site architectures for improved performance and security. For developers, GitHub Pages represents a stable foundation for long-term projects with minimal vendor lock-in concerns. The platform's integration with the broader GitHub ecosystem provides natural migration paths as projects grow in complexity. Organizations evaluating static site hosting should consider GitHub pages as a starting point, with clear upgrade paths to more advanced platforms as requirements evolve. Enhanced GitHub Actions workflows for complex build processes and multi-environment deployments, improved integration with GitHub Codespaces for complete cloud-based development workflows, expanded support for modern JavaScript frameworks, and build tools beyond Jekyll enterprise security features, including SAML authentication and audit logging capabilities.
Great analysis. So, what are the key takeaways from all of this?
GitHub Pages provides free static website hosting for public repositories with automatic HTTPS and global CDN distribution. Setup requires only repository access and basic file organization, no complex server configuration or ongoing maintenance costs. The platform integrates seamlessly with existing developer workflows through Git-based deployment and version control. Custom domains and professional features are available at no additional cost, making it ideal for portfolios and project documentation.
And what market signals should our listeners watch for?
Static site hosting democratization. GitHub Pages' simplified deployment process reflects broader market trends toward accessible web hosting solutions. The platform's growth from 2 million to over 4 million active sites in 2 years demonstrates increasing developer adoption of static site architectures. This shift indicates reduced barriers to web publishing and growing preference for Git-based content management workflows among technical users. Jamstack architecture mainstream adoption. The integration improvements in GitHub Pages signal mainstream acceptance of Jamstack principles in enterprise development. Major organizations are migrating from traditional CMS platforms to static site generators for improved security and performance. This trend suggests continued investment in static site tooling and infrastructure, with GitHub positioning itself as the default deployment platform for this architectural shift. Developer experience platform consolidation. GitHub's enhancement of Pages functionality represents broader platform consolidation in developer tools. Microsoft's strategy involves creating comprehensive developer ecosystems within single platforms rather than best-of-breed toolchains. This consolidation trend suggests that standalone hosting providers may struggle to compete against integrated platform offerings that combine code management, CI/CD, and hosting services.
What should developers and operators do with this information?
Enable GitHub Pages immediately for existing public repositories containing web assets to reduce hosting costs within 24 hours. Migrate simple WordPress or static sites to GitHub Pages within 2 weeks to eliminate monthly hosting fees and improve deployment workflows. Configure custom domains for professional GitHub Pages sites within 48 hours of initial deployment to maintain brand consistency. Set up automated deployment workflows using GitHub Actions for complex static site builds requiring Node.js or Python processing within 1 week.
Thank you for listening to LeadAI.dev. Stay tuned for our next daily updates in this rapidly emerging market.